Hello guys, I'm Kunal. Over the past few months, I have been building Modern Web Commerce, a production-ready e-commerce case study built to explore how a real online business works behind the scenes. When most developers think about an e-commerce project, we usually imagine our storefront, an admin panel, a payment gateway. And while those are important, running an online business involves much more than just processing a successful payment. There are business rules, inventory management, overselling, payment disputes, testing, documentation, and many other production scenarios that are easy to overlook. That's exactly what this project is about. In this video, I will give you a complete tour of modern web commerce, explain why I built it, walk you through one of its production workflows, and show you what makes it more than just another e-commerce project. Let's get started. Now, before we look at the project itself, I want to explain why I decided to build it. When most of us think about an e-commerce application, we usually picture a storefront and admin panel, some simple database operations, and hopefully a successful Stripe payment. And that's exactly where many projects stop. But building an online business is much more than displaying products and accepting payments. You are dealing with customers' data, inventory, shopping carts, multiple users ordering the same product, payment failures, disputes, fraud prevention, and many other situations that directly affect the business. While building this project, I realized that these production scenarios were the most interesting part of the entire application. That's why modern web commerce isn't just focused on teaching how to build an online store, but its goal is to help you understand how the real business think, how engineering decisions affect the business, and why seemingly small implementation details can have a huge impact in production. Now that you know the idea behind the project, let's see how it works from a customer's perspective. I already have the storefront open here. Instead of talking about the design or responsiveness, let's use it like a real customer would. Suppose I am looking for a product. I will search for it, narrow down the results using filters, and choose the one I want to buy. After selecting the size, I will add it to my cart and continue to checkout. At this point, I am asked to sign in. So I will continue with Google. After the authentication, I'm brought back to my cart. So I can continue exactly where I left off without starting over. So now let's proceed to checkout. The application creates a secure Stripe checkout session and redirects me to Stripe hosted payment page. Since this is a demo environment, I will use Stripe's test card to complete the payment. Once the payment is successful, I am redirected back to the application while the order is being processed. A few seconds later, the order is confirmed and I also receive an order confirmation email. From a customer's perspective, the experience is simpler. Search for a product, place an order, and receive confirmation. But behind these few clicks, a lot more is happening than what we can actually see. So let's take a look behind the scenes and understand what really happened after clicking the checkout. Now we have seen what the customer experiences, but the interesting part begins after clicking the checkout. Let's follow that request step by step. So when the customer clicks checkout, the front end sends the user's cart to the backend. But notice what's inside the cart. It does not contain product names, prices, images, or any other information that could be manipulated by the browser. Instead, it only contains the minimum information needed to identify each cart item, such as the product document ID, selected size, and the quantity. From there, everything important happens on the server. The backend first verifies the user identity. After that, it rebuilds the complete cart using data stored in the database. This follows one important principle that you will see throughout the project. Never trust the front end. The front end only tells the backend what the customer selected. The backend decide what those selections actually mean by loading the latest product information from the database. That populated cart is then passed to the inventory manager, and then the inventory manager validates every product, verifies that enough stock is available, and temporarily reserves the inventory for this checkout. Only after the inventory has been successfully reserved does the backend ask Stripe to create a checkout. Once the checkout is created, the server creates a pending order. At this point, no payment has been made yet, but the server still creates an order to bridge the checkout with the order completion later. And at the end, it sends the checkout URL in response to the front end. The front end redirects the customer to the Stripe where the payment is processed. But even after the customer completes the payment, the checkout still isn't not finished. Stripe notifies the backend through a webhook. The backend verifies that webhook finalizes the order, updates the inventory, releases any temporary reservations, and sends the confirmation email. And only then is the purchase considered complete. This is just one workflow in the project, but it highlights something important. Building a checkout is not just about accepting payments. It's about making sure that every step happens in the correct order, while protecting the business from invalid or manipulated data. Now let's look at a few things I learned while building this project. One of the biggest surprises for me was the shopping cart. At first, it looks like a simple feature. You add products, update quantities, and continue to checkout. But once you start thinking about production, it becomes much more complicated. The backend never trusts the cart coming from the browser. Every update is validated, products are checked again, and the latest information is always retrieved before making any important decisions. Another interesting challenge was supporting cart synchronization across multiple devices. Imagine adding a few products on your phone and later continuing from your laptop. Keeping both carts synchronized while making sure the inventory remains correct introduces many small engineering challenges that aren't immediately obvious. Another problem every e-commerce application eventually faces is overselling. Imagine having only one product left in stock while two customers try to purchase it at almost the same time. Without proper inventory management, both customers could successfully complete the purchase even though only one item actually exists. Designing a system to prevent that taught me a lot about how inventory should be managed before accepting payments. One interesting thing I discovered was that testing this scenario manually is almost impossible. So instead of trying to recreate it by hand every time, I built an automated overselling test that simulates multiple users attempting to purchase the same product simultaneously. While developing the test, I actually found a bug that allowed overselling under a specific situation. Fixing that bug before the project was released reminded me why automated testing is such an important part of production software. And these are just few examples. The project also covers inventory management, dispute handling, checkout recovery, fraud protection, email notification, and several other production workflows. Instead of looking at another feature, let's just explore one real production scenario and see how the system handles it. Now let's look at one production scenario that taught me an important lesson while building this project. When a customer starts the checkout process, the system temporarily reserves the product inventory. This prevents multiple customers from purchasing the same item at the same time. But this introduces another problem. What happens if the customer creates multiple checkout sessions? To prevent inventory from being logged forever, the application allows only one active checkout per user at any given time. Whenever a new checkout is created, any previous checkout becomes suspended. Normally, the customer never notices this. But if someone opens an old checkout link and completes the payment anyway, something interesting happens. Let me show you. Here I have a suspended checkout. The Stripe page still allows the payment because Stripe has no idea the checkout has been suspended inside our application. So I will complete the payment. The payment succeeds. But the application marks the order as failed. At first, that might look like an error, but it's actually protecting the business. Since the inventory was no longer reserved for this checkout, the backend cannot safely complete the order. Instead of pretending nothing happened, it records the payment, creates a failed order, and immediately notifies the customer by email with instructions to contact the support. This taught me one important lesson. Once a payment has been captured, the business is responsible for recording it correctly, even if the order cannot be completed. Without this workflow, the payment would still exist inside Stripe, but the application would have no record of it, making refunds and customer support much more difficult. Instead, the admin panel clearly shows a failed order with a successful payment, allowing support to issue a refund without investigating Stripe manually. This is one of those edge cases that most users will never see, but handling situations like this is what makes a production software different from a demo application. Building production software is one thing. Making sure it stays reliable after future changes is another. That's why the project includes several test scripts designed to verify important business workflows. Instead of manually repeating the same scenarios every time, I can simply run a test and verify that the core business logic still behaves as expected. For example, this dispute test automatically creates a complete dispute scenario and generates a report showing what happened during the test. Along with the report, it also saves debug logs and backend logs, making it easier to understand what happened if something goes wrong. The goal isn't to replace manual testing. It is to quickly verify that important production workflows continue working while developing new features. The project also includes documentation to help you understand not only how to run the project, but also why different parts of the architecture were designed the way they are. From local setups and deployments to architecture diagrams and engineering decisions, the documentation focuses on explaining the reasoning behind the implementation rather than simply listing steps to follow. Since this is the first release of the case study, the documentation will continue to improve based on the feedback from learners over time. I also wanted the setup experience to be as smooth as possible. Instead of asking you to manually generate environment variables, create random secrets, or configure repetitive development tasks, the project includes several utility scripts that automate most of the work. Whether it's generating environment files, seeding the database with sample data, or starting the local Stripe webhook listener, these scripts are designed to let you spend less time configuring the project and more time understanding how it works. If you have enjoyed what you have seen so far and would like to explore the project yourself, I have made the complete demo available online. You can browse the store, place the test orders using Stripe test cards, and experience the same workflows you have seen throughout this video. Since it's running in test mode, no real payments are processed. If you would like to study the complete implementation, you can get the full case study through the product page linked in the description. The launch price is $30 plus any applicable sales tax based on your country. This is an early launch price as I wanted to keep the launch price affordable for early supporters. As the project grows with more documentation, new features, and additional case studies, the price will gradually increase over time. After purchasing, you will receive an order confirmation email with download instructions, and if you would like to get GitHub repository access, you can request it by following the instructions included in your purchase. The project also includes all future updates, so as the documentation grows and new improvements are released, you will receive them at no additional cost. If you have any questions before or after purchase, you can always contact me on my email or leave a comment below. This case study is designed for developers who already understand the basics of full stack and want to see how a production application comes together behind the scene. If you ever wondered why real applications are structured differently from the tutorial projects, this case study is built for exactly that purpose. On the other hand, if you are looking for a Shopify theme, a plug-and-play online store, or you are completely new to web development, this probably is not the right product for you. The goal is not to help you launch a business overnight, but the goal is to help you understand the engineering decisions behind building an e-commerce store. So that is what modern web commerce is. If this project looks interesting to you, you can find the live demo and product page links in the description below. In the upcoming videos, we will take a much deeper look into many of the topics we briefly covered today, like inventory management, overselling protection, checkout architecture, disputes, and other production scenarios that developers often don't see while learning. If that sounds interesting, consider subscribing so you don't miss those videos. I also occasionally send updates through the Modern Web newsletter whenever I have something valuable to share, whether it's a new feature, something I learned, or progress on future project. So if that's something you are interested in, the link is in the description for you to subscribe. With that note, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.